All right. Welcome back, Tokies, for another episode of Toke Pod. We decided to switch things up a little this week, and instead of running through our kind of redundant categories, we're going to just do a little bit of league talk. We're going to go through each of our two different leagues that majority of us are in and just talk about some of the teams, how we think they're doing, some major injuries. We're just going to have a conversation about fantasy football this week. As usual, I'm here with my co-hosts, Kirby and Nick. So we'll just jump right into things. We're going to start with Sunbeers first, and I'll start by saying pretty disappointing show matchup versus myself and Liv. Really thought this was going to be a battle of the house, trying to have that, head on head, big money stakes, pie in the face. That hasn't happened yet, but it will happen. And it just turned out to be an absolute dud. One of my main guys went down right off the bat with a head injury, or at least that's what the trainer said. So that didn't turn out well, and I basically just got smoked. I'm not gonna lie, I pretty much turned off the TV after the 1 o'clock games. I was so frustrated losing to my wife. She's just one to rub it in my face. She gloats a lot. We went to work the next day, and she was the first thing she told everybody that came through the door, including like the dogs. It was pretty bad for me. So yeah, it's been a bad week in the Stevens household for one of us. Actually, for both of us, really, when you look at it, and that's what we'll get into right now. So we're just gonna.
All right, here we are. We said we'd do it, and we're gonna do it. The pie to the face. Loser gets to pie, or winner gets to pie the loser. So, okay. Jesus Christ. Really waste a good thing of fucking. Have you ever seen somebody so happy to pie somebody in their life?
Are you gonna do it?
Hold on. No. You are gonna smash me. Alright, close the video.
Three big players right off the bat. It's the curse of the Stevens. I've had many times where my team has been the number one, really, powerhouse team, and then midway through the season, boom, bing, bang, almost 1 week. You got to be kidding me. We've seen it a million times. Your team just goes down. So, we'll really see how her team plays out. She has some still great players. She's weak at running back. Benjamin. I don't really know what he's gonna do. I did see that she picked up somebody. Who was it? Naheem Hines. So she's kind of looking at the waivers now to just hopefully pull through and ride it on her receivers. I don't know. What do you guys think for the rest of the season for Team Stev? Oh, Stev.
Well, first I want to say, what is the overall? Do you guys know off the top of your head what the records are of the couples? Obviously, Dennis just said he lost to Liv, so he took the L on that one.
Talking
Nick, did you
head-to-head?
beat Amy? Yeah, head to head
I think Nick
of
lost.
the couples.
I
Nick lost.
I lost to Amy. Yep, that was Amy's. I
You
think
lost
her
it.
first win.
You lost to Anna.
I just checked. I beat Anna. Looks like Slim lost to Dixie, and I have not found Brandon
Mrs.
yet.
Dixie.
Mrs. Dixie. I have not found. Give me a second. I apologize. And it looks like Brandon lost. So
4-1 girls.
4-1 on the head-to-head couples matchup. That's pretty impressive. So yeah, it's tough look for the boys. But yeah, I mean, she 7-0. You got to give it to her. She's rode the first half of the season pretty well. First place, highest points scored by a decent margin. But that's going to be tough to lose, a guy like Brees Hall and Jamar, especially Jamar Chase as well, for a couple weeks, and Brees Hall for the season. So, I mean, this is when, everyone likes fantasy when you have your set and forget lineup, maybe a couple tweaks here and there. But this is where the going gets tough when you have bye weeks, you have injuries, and this is when it really, this is what makes a league winner here and how you can adapt to the hard times.
Yeah, I mean, overall, I think she's going to be all right because a lot of her players are like, Hopkins. If Hopkins can start performing better, I mean, he did pretty good his first game, but if he really steps into that like 16, 17, hopefully more points a game, Diggs, Jacobs, Hopkins, Kyler Murray, she has like a really solid floor, and that's what I've kind of told her. So, these other guys that she's going to have to play now, Valdez, Scantling, Ninehimes, I don't know, Campbell, I don't really know if that guy's going to do anything. He's had 2 good games, but she's just going to have to rely on those people that are hopefully getting, 8 to 9 points. She's probably not going to be the top scorer most weeks anymore, but um, I think she still has a solid base going forward. So it'll be interesting to see what happens, though.
Yeah, I mean, she's a little weak at tight end. Obviously, Benjamin, I don't know if he's going to quite perform at that, but their offense looked a lot better with Hopkins in it. Just kind of that familiar, comfortable guy. He's just a monster. He catches everything. For Kyler, and if the offense is moving, then it should be some easier runs for someone like Benjamin. But how long is that going to last? And then I don't know, Metcalf. I think if Metcalf is more long term, they're making it seem like it's not that bad. They got good news that it wasn't anything really major. But if he misses some serious time, I think that's going to be tough. Kind of in the long term.
Yeah.
That it just depletes. Obviously, she still has Diggs and Hopkins, which is a pretty unbelievable 1-2 punch. Even losing Chase and Metcalf, but and then Josh Jacobs is absolutely on one.
Yeah,
The
he's
last
looking to
3
be the
weeks.
top one running back going forward if he can keep up 30 points a week.
32, 27, 35.
I was up.
Weeks.
I was face Tom this past weekend. I was up by like 40 points or whatever it was, and I fell asleep. And I woke up, and Josh Jacobs had 3 touchdowns and 35 points. I was like, "What the hell?" I only had a 5-point lead, and I was like, "This could be dangerous."
Yeah, the worst is when you wake up from napping or the Sunday game and you're just like, 20-point lead, I'm gonna be fine, and then you wake up, you're like, what the hell happened?
Oh, it's the worst. It's the worst.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, just we'll move on to Kobe in second place, 5-2 to second place to live 7-0, second highest points scored. A relatively healthy team, and potentially Christian McCaffrey on the rise, moving to a well-oiled San Francisco team if they use him and he stays healthy. I know Dennis is probably going to chime in and say some of these stats don't matter, which they really don't, but they do kind of give you an indication of the overall strength of team. So just for some reference, Liv has 132 points average weekly score. Mrs. Dixie's not too far behind with 127. And at least one of Mrs. Dixie's losses came to Anna, who just had, if you look at her weekly scoring, had an ungodly week of like over 170 points. And that was just a tough, unlucky little matchup that week. But Mrs. Dixie's had a pretty consistent output of above the league average scoring. And Liv has the highest. She's had some great weeks, and she's had some weeks that are below average. So, we'll see if come now with these injuries, if she can kind of keep that above average streak going for Liv here, and if Kobe keeps it up with her steady production, you might have a change in rankings in the upcoming weeks here.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at Colby's team on paper, especially her starting lineup this week, it's very lackluster. I mean, Hunter Renfro, Allen Robinson. I mean, I know her running backs are one of her strengths, obviously, and she has CeeDee Lamb. But people have been coming through. It's sometimes you just need those floor players that are just getting you 5 to 7 points a game consistently, and then your other guys just take over and win it for you. Because like if I looked at her team right now, I don't think I would say like, oh yeah, this person's definitely second highest scorer, second place, almost undefeated, but she's getting it done.
I
Yeah,
think
I mean-
that's a big thing. It's a big thing. I mean, something that my teams feel like it's been lacking is that consistency of just like, oh, like this guy's not really going off at all, but like he's right there getting 10 points. And like that allows you to just, and then you just need that one or two guys to go off. And then if you have that consistency everywhere else, like you're going to be able to beat teams and beat like the league averages and stuff like that. So it's you know, then it's just a matchup and hopefully your team can just compete, but it's just like week in and week out. Like my team has a lot of potential to put up points, but it just I feel like I'm missing so many holes of like consistency in certain places.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't necessarily want to jump all over the place, but I think it's a good segue into that. I mean, Nick, in some beers, you're in 10th place. It's unfortunate. You're 5th in scoring, which is like
Yeah,
pretty crazy. Like,
I mean,
it's,
I have a three-headed monster that puts up. I'd love to see their average. I haven't run the numbers, but I would say they probably average 19 points a game between Derrick Henry, Saquon Barkley, and Nick Chubb. I mean, their RB, I think 3, 2, and
1, 3, and 5.
I think Derrick Henry's the worst of the three,
Yeah, 1, 3, and 5.
and he's one of the few people in the league this year with it only being week 7 through week 7 that only two sets of teams have had buys. So
I mean,
or
like,
two
like I
weeks of
said,
teams
you
buys,
have
and-
you have the 5th highest average score. You're 5th overall in scoring, and I know fantasy is all about your head-to-head weekly matchup, but you've pretty much every week outperformed 51% of the entire league. And you only have one win to show for it. It's just pretty. That's just. I think that's the definition of how fantasy can be unlucky at times, just based on weekly matchups.
yeah, for
there's
sure.
definitely
And
luck.
there's definitely a lot of luck involved into it. It's also like just some key decisions that you make as a manager that it's like, well, like I can't control who I face. I can't control what their team's doing, but it's also, a couple bad decisions on my part as far as, some decisions I've made as far as who to start and kind of being like, oh, like I'm choosing between these 6 guys for these 3 positions and you just pick the wrong 3 guys. It's just,
Yeah.
That's just kind of fantasy. Like you overthink something, or like you get too in love with a matchup versus like raw skill and whatnot, which is tough. But it is like we've had a lot of close leagues over the last couple of years in Toker's Lounge, and it like still looking down both sides. Like I don't even think I'm out of it. Like I think I could go on a run. Like I can rattle off. Like I don't think it's that unrealistic for me to make the playoffs still. So like,
Oh no, not at all.
If I lose the next couple of games, then I'm probably done. But like if I need to, every streak starts with 1.
Yeah, I mean, I
finally got that win this week. Thanks to Anna for not playing some players, but
I mean, like exactly what I'm saying. Like I think that's what the kind of the numbers show is the luck hasn't been on your side, but your performance has been. So you would think that you only need a couple wins because if we're doing a 16 playoff, it's only a couple wins because you're not out of the water yet, or I guess that doesn't make sense, but you're not done for yet.
yeah, I mean I'm 2 wins away from tied with 5th and 6th place at 3 and 4. Obviously if they lose.
Yeah, but
there's
you
a
get
three-way-
those 2. If everything was to stay the same and you got those 2 wins, you'd instantly be in 5th place due to your scoring because you'd be above Sween, you'd be above Kirby, you'd be above Amy, who are all
Exactly.
3 and 4. You'd be above them, and that's 2 wins away. It's not even that crazy to think about at all because your scoring has been so high. You're right underneath
Yeah,
Melbourne in scoring.
You just don't see that often in fantasy leagues where someone is 5th overall in scoring in last place.
Yeah.
With a pretty substantial difference, I guess, from the average.
Yeah, I mean, I lost to Dennis 148 to 142 week 1. That's just like that's tough. I think
That score
Number
most
3
weeks is blowing people out of the water.
I was like 3 or 4 in scoring that week. It's like, oh shit.
Yeah, it sucks when you're like the 3rd scorer and you lose to like the 1st scorer or even the 2nd scorer. That's that luck factor.
I mean, yeah, just looking at it, some of your yeah, you had a let's see here. Yeah, you just had some bad luck. So you've had a little bit of dip in your scoring, and other people, probably one of the people you faced, without me knowing, had one of their peaks. So it's how the fantasy gods throw it your way sometimes.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, and even still, like, obviously Liv has been going off, and she only put 122 up against me. My team only put up 110, but
Yeah.
it's yeah, that's how it goes. I've also been riding with Russell Wilson and Jared Judy for a little too long, so that doesn't help.
Yeah, Russ is just insufferable in every way. Every report every day comes out just makes me hate him more. Yeah, we have Dennis. You're in third place, 5-2, fourth highest point scored overall. How you feeling?
I mean, I feel pretty good. I think my team looks really great on paper. I don't know if that's just me being cocky, but when I look at my team, I'm like, man, this team is solid. I have, normally I'm starting Patrick Mahomes, Alvin Kamara, Leonard Fournette. Those guys are just pretty good on their floors. I mean, Fournette had an absolute dud of a game last week. 15, 30, 23. So that absolutely slaughtered me. And Justin Jefferson underperformed for me too. So last week I'm hoping was an outlier, but I feel pretty good. I really hope Kyle Pitts starts doing something. I have to play him this week because Njoku's out. I've been playing Njoku and he's been very solid. He at least gets me over like 7 points, so that's worked out fantastic for me. So I think it's just hope that my guys do what I think they're due by looking at their namesake. I mean, it's good to have Chris Godwin back. He's been pretty solid floor since he's been back, over 9 points a game. That's just a very solid wide receiver 3 is what I had him at. I got the thing that killed me this week more spiritually and mentally than even just on paper was the Sun God injury. 0.9 points, gets hurt on a play where, like, when I watched it, I was like, what do you mean he's injured? What do you mean he's out for the rest of the game? What even happened? Because, like, it didn't look like anything even happened on the play, but it's just that thing that we all knew was coming, where the guy in the booth or whoever they have looking at these players, if he sees you stumble or, see that there's a lapse in consciousness or whatever they're looking at, you're automatically out. And I think that's just what happened. It kind of screwed me over there.
It's definitely an interesting thing for fantasy. Obviously, I want these guys to be healthy first and foremost, but from a fantasy perspective, losing a guy something like that, when you hear back it wasn't a concussion, he did not get ruled with a concussion, it's just this is the new thing. It's like
super scary because
most
wide
of us
receivers were more stable usually.
And the thing, like, most of us between, all of us have played some sort of a contact sport, whether it's lacrosse, hockey, or football, and sometimes you get a Charlie horse on your thigh, like a helmet hits your thigh, hits your knee, you just get twisted up a wrong way, and you come up a little wobbled. Nothing to do with head, but you just, like, you're kind of like, oh, like you're trying to, like, kind of get a mental check of your body because you're like, I just got rocked, and in doing that, you might be like kind of like, oh, like it might be a limp or something, or like you went to go put pressure on your ankle and it just got banged up, and you kind of stumble a little bit to get, and then, like, as you're trying to work through your body, and it's like, what that, it's just tough to lose a guy like that. Obviously, I'm in the same situation. I have Sun God in 2 leagues, and he's just like one of those guys you're like, we're so high on after the first 2 weeks. Tweaks himself in week 3, and he's kind of been in and out.
Yeah.
We learned, like, in the first 2 minutes of the game against, I think it was the Pats, that he was on a snap count, which they never said before.
Mm-hmm.
You see him kind of not play the full game. And it's just been, and obviously Detroit got smoked there, but it's a guy you're really hoping is late rounder. You're looking to fit, and you look down your roster for sure, and you see your 3 wide receivers. I think you got really good value there, and I think they're really, really good as far as the value you got from someone like Kirk and Amon-Ra St. Brown. So
yeah, hopefully they can.
Yeah, I mean, the bit of copium you can maybe try to huff, even if, say, the Sun God played, I mean, he still lost by 51 points. So
oh yeah,
it's not it if that's any sort of make you feel better about the situation about Sun God, is that it didn't cost you necessarily the week.
It was more of like, okay, the 1:00 start, by 1:03 he was down, and I was just like, well, that's game over. That's game over. And
Yeah.
it just went downhill from there. It was just like, the straw that broke the camel's back, and it happened so early in the game. I mean, 0.9 points. It was like 4 seconds into the game. I was like, oh, here we go. Liv starts smiling. She's like, oh, I hope he has like a brain tumor now and never comes back in. She's getting all evil on me. And I'm like, well, Jesus Christ, Liv. I mean, hopefully it's not that bad. But kind of like what Nick said, it's football, man. I mean, there's been many times where like you just get hit and it like rocks you. It's not necessarily a concussion, but like you get dazed a little bit, and it's a scary thing for receivers. I was kind of hitting on it because I try to stay away from stacking running backs because they're usually injury prone, as we see with Breece Hall going down. So receivers more. They don't usually get those ACL tears as often and stuff like that. But now we're worried about receivers, getting these clocks from a guy coming across the middle, and now you're out for the game on like a stumble.
Yeah, even just going up for the ball and cut, like he gets undercut and comes down funny. It's like,
yep, out for the game. I didn't even see him stumble. I don't know if you guys saw him. I didn't see any sort of stumble or anything. Like it wasn't like Tua where he was like on a different realm.
No, obviously he's been battling injuries. I thought he might have retweaked, his injury and was just like, going to the tent to like get it wrapped or looked at. Like obviously he's been dealing with injury, so I don't know. It definitely just brings in an interesting new component to the game where it's like it can really sway a game. I know Kirby said you lost by 50. Rubs that in,
anything, but
I wasn't trying to rub it in. It's more just like if that would make me somewhat feel better, like of my frustration of him going out. It's like, okay, well, if I lost by like 5, then I'd be like, oh, I'm even more pissed.
Well, the worst part about it all,
Mark Andrews' big play, first play of the game.
The worst part about the whole thing was Liv's players that got hurt. Breece Hall, 13 points. Jamar Chase, 29 points.
Yeah.
Like,
already had
all the guys that got hurt on her team had already fucking gone off. Besides DK Metcalf, it's like, oh, great. Her players couldn't have gotten hurt in the beginning of the game. A guy like Jamar Chase gets 29 points, and then they're putting him on IR. What the hell happened?
It's like what Dixie dealt with when he picked up Naheem Hines the first game. Taylor was out, and he got concussed the first drive.
Unreal.
It is frustrating. It is frustrating.
I lost another catch from Andrews. I lost Breece Hall in a 12-man league, which is obviously like even a bigger like blow to the gut.
Nobody.
It's just nobody at like you're just looking down the list, you're like, oh no. And I have Cordero Patterson on IR. Is just like waiting for him. I know we're gonna touch on him a little bit later, but just frustrating, obviously. So highs from like him, just watching him just kind of satellite like, absolutely take off, but injury bugs, it'll definitely get you. And it seems like it's funny because it always happens this way, but like it's always shocking. It's like it's right when the bye weeks happen,
Yeah, which is a good segment for our next candidate, Melbourne, who is the fourth. This is kind of, we have like a tier 1 and then the tier 2s. The 4 of these people were kind of the tier 1s, the people that have just kind of been like outperforming a lot of the teams. And but we touched upon it. Her bench, there's not much on the bench for buys or replacements, so it'll be interesting to see how things go forward for her team. Some of her solid players are just Montgomery, Cooper Kupp, obviously. Devonta Smith has been exceedingly good some games and just a very solid 12-point floor on other games. Amari Cooper's been playing really well this year. But now that we're going into some of these buys, it'll be interesting to see what she's going to do. I mean, Jeff Wilson on the bench, he's useless now. Darnell Mooney, never done anything in this entire season. Elijah Mitchell. Jeff Wilson and Elijah Mitchell, it's like, okay, those two players are just duds right now. If Jamal Williams, I think they said DeAndre Swift was healthy this week, so there's 1, 2, 3 guys that are doing nothing for you. Travis Kelce's on a bye this week, so it'll be interesting to see how her team does going forward if she doesn't start picking some of these people up. So Melissa, if you're listening out there, you might want to drop those 3 players because chances are 2 of them are doing nothing for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I mean, she loses her kicker, Tony Pollard, which who knows the extent of Zeke's injury, and Amari Cooper next week. So
Yeah.
you have one more week of trying to make it work, and then you really got to make some decisions with people you got to cut bait with.
Yeah, and I'll tell you right now, I just dropped George Pickens, and unfortunately, he had a very good week. So, he's kind of that guy that 2, 5, 13, 11, 4, 15. So he's a up and down player. That team has been all over the place this year. And Darnell Mooney, I mean, he probably should have been dropped a long time ago. I guess he's a decent bye week player. He can sometimes get you 10 points.
Well, Amy had him for a while. She picked him up.
Yeah,
So
it'll be
I don't know
interesting to see how she
long
does
she's
this
had,
week
but
without Travis Kelce.
She does have Raheem Mostert, who seems to be kind of hitting stride and looking to be kind of taking over that Miami backfield
Yeah,
from Chase Edmonds. So almost 19 points last week or he had a receiving touchdown, but no rushing touchdown. But looked pretty solid from what I saw from that game. Dave Montgomery's interesting because it's Herbert was playing a lot of snaps against the Pats, and they looked really good. So we'll see, but definitely some issues coming, especially that Christian McCaffrey trade really hurt, especially the time she spent holding on to Mitchell, and then she traded and got Wilson, and he was looking really good, and now
Yeah, it kind of bites you.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see how that happens. Anyway, we'll move on to the tier 2 guys, I guess, that we're talking about. In that mix is Sween, Kirby, Amy, Anna, Dixie, and Nick. A lot of these teams are very close in scoring. Like we said, Nick is actually the highest of all of these at the bottom. We've already touched on that a lot. Team Sween, I mean, team looks pretty good on paper. We'll see how it goes going forward. But when I look at his team, I see some players that I'm like, yeah, this makes sense that he's in 5th place. It doesn't really make sense, though, that his scoring's so low. Dalvin Cook, Aaron Jones, Jalen Waddle. I mean, Jalen Waddle has not performed like he did in the beginning of the season. Every single game, a couple of single digits in there. Robert Woods, obviously, that guy's kind of a dud. See if he keeps on to him.
Well, Waddle lost Tua obviously for a little bit. It seemed like he was all over the place. I had a bet going with Tyreek Hill. I need him to get 100 points. He didn't, but it seemed like Waddle was performing well. And I know he didn't end up great without a touchdown, but I think Tua didn't look as comfortable as he has, and I think that's just going to take some time to kind of get back in the swing of things. I like his receivers, but he's obviously taken a pretty big hit with Mike Williams. Who knows how long he's going to be out, and Michael Thomas, just the guy's forever broken.
Yeah, it looked like he was starting off so strong too. 3 touchdowns in his first 2 games. Sure.
Yeah, that guy's, who knows if he'll ever come back. Yeah, I mean,
I feel like Tom Brady's kind of getting to that tier 2 where it's like he might have to start looking at some other guys. I mean, Tom Brady their offense has been terrible.
yeah, well, I mean, we'll see how they do tonight, but yeah, not looking good. I mean, I other than Nick of all the names you just listed, I think Nick has the highest chance to kind of surpass everyone you just listed. I'm not happy with my team.
Yeah, I was
my
going to
team's
say
in
your team
shambles.
this week looks
Bad.
suspect.
I have no running backs. I have no running backs. Once I lost Javonte Williams with my 1-2 Eckler punch, and AJ Dillon has been absolute trash. I haven't. It's the curse of our waiver situation where I did decent for a couple weeks, but then not good enough to ever get like the next running back. So I've always been in like that purgatory where I'm just going to be probably steadily decrease into I fade away into nothing.
Yeah, Nick getting all the fresh picks down there and just waiting to bump himself up. Boop, 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 boop.
Yeah, I mean that's.
I can't even play the guys I pick up. I have the 3 best running backs in the, three of the 5 best running backs in the league.
Yeah, you're
yeah. I mean,
keeping him from the other guys.
I think Amy's team has a good chance. She had a great week last week against me.
Amy's
I
team
think
looks stout now after this week.
Yeah, I think she has a chance to be on the rise.
I think Jonathan Taylor's moving in the right direction, and the big question and Tyler Boyd obviously that's a nice little bump up. He's been looking solid, and then with the loss of Jamar Chase, that makes him wide receiver 2, and
Yeah.
a kind of a favorite option for Joe Burrow, who she also has, and he's stock up.
This looks like a tier 1 team for sure.
No, I
It's-
agree.
it's
I think
not
it's
that-
Nick and Amy have the best chance to make the playoffs of that bunch.
And Kittle's finally, he obviously missed the beginning of the season, and the last 2 games he's looked more like himself. So if Debo starts coming around, it could be something, and she's still waiting on
ETN.
Oh, and
Yeah,
and she had
ETN.
ETN and Robinson, and gets
12,
the huge
10,
bump from-
18 in the last 3 games. I mean, it looks like it's ETN season.
Yeah, and he loses his handcuff in Robinson, who's been kind of looming over him all season, and Robinson gets a boost because he's looking like he's going to go fill in Brees Hall's.
She has James Robinson on her bench. She gets to play both of these guys potentially.
I know.
No, it just her team just got that much better.
And when you look at Liv and how hurt she was from everything that's transpired, you look at someone like Amy and
took
she has
all of the benefits from Liv's loss.
She has benefited every step of the way through that.
Jamar Chase, she has Tyler Boyd. Brees Hall, she has
James Robinson.
It's like if only she had Tyler Lockett, she would have been totally benefiting from all of these guys.
It is. I read something that ETN that he was like practicing with running some routes with the receivers, so maybe they're going to try to use him more so in the passing game. And it's like what we've always said, what we think the Bengals should have done or should do with Joe Mixon, they may be doing with ETN here. So instead of just having him like pound the rock, use him in split out like in the passing game, like almost like how they use Christian McCaffrey. And ETN may, I'm not going to say he's going to be those guys, but he may have the performance of that type of work.
Wait a minute. Now I'm looking at Team Anna Truman, and I do see a guy on IR.
Yeah, I think it was a misclick because
I think
like I said,
what Kirby said, because
she has an open bench spot.
I don't know. There's a lot of suspect things coming over there.
Are you worried?
It's not.
No, but
it's not illicit activity until she has filled that bench slot with somebody else.
Yeah, she's not benefiting from it at all, I guess.
She has a bench spot open.
I guess my biggest question is she actually going to put a starting QB in the game this week, or is she just going to leave it empty?
I think she will.
Anna has no wide receivers.
Think she will what?
I think she will find a quarterback at one point.
I guess just Mike Evans and A.J. Brown.
If Swift comes back and does his thing, I mean,
so we'll see. It's Swift.
Is he even playing?
Yeah, he's playing right now. Swift is very frustrating. I should have known. It's why I wasn't high on him when I drafted him, because I feel like he's one of those guys that like is kind of a poussoir with injuries. Like he gets hurt and it just doesn't fight through him. Like he just like, I don't know. And I was reading some reports like over the years, like he's had like this shoulder issue where he gets a bum shoulder and he just doesn't play through it. And I'm not trying to say he should or speak onto
play through a shoulder injury until it breaks. Come on, it's not your knee.
It's like, I mean,
barely even need it.
So who knows? He may come back, do one run, get a little boo boo on his shoulder, and just sit himself out. So who knows?
His points were steadily declining from the first game to the third game that he's played, and I have him in the Cruise League, the Big Money League, and it's been I'm 5-2 somehow, but I don't know. This is the first week that I lost all 3 leagues. It was very disappointing. I've had thoughts of, this is why I said I was quitting fantasy. I'm never playing fantasy again.
Here we go, dude. The guy's 5-2 in 2 leagues, loses 1 week, goes 0-3, and just starts hanging up the towel. Welcome to us, bro.
I'll tell you, Dennis. I'd rather have an injured Swift who just hasn't been playing than be in my situation where I've had Najee Harris and I just feel like I have to play him. And every week it's like, oh, Najee Harris rushes 15 times for 44 yards.
Yeah.
Chris Godwin just had a big play, boys. Big play.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my boy. Speaking of Najee Harris, looking for over 2.0 from Akers. I'd say this is probably the worst team on paper. Somehow he has another win over you, but Najee Harris, Bateman. I mean, Aaron Rodgers has not even eclipsed 20 points once this season. Hasn't even eclipsed 18 points once this season.
I mean,
Probably
it's
time to find a new quarterback, Dixie. I hate to say move on from Rodgers, but 15, 10, 14, probably time to move on from Rodgers. It doesn't look good over in Green Bay.
it doesn't look good right now unless they make some sort of trade for a receiver, which I've heard talks of maybe DJ Moore or Jerry Jeudy or yada yada yada, Chase Claypool. It does not looking good. They have
Pretty sure
no offense.
ownership and management in Carolina said DJ Moore is not a piece. He's the cornerstone of our, like, he's the guy here. Like, that's how they view him. So I don't think, unfortunately for us, Kirby, he's not going anywhere.
I don't think so either, but you always know ownership could just be saying that just to raise the stock price of a player. You never know the kind of games they're playing. I do agree with you though.
I think that they're more of like Chinese checker marble players than they are playing any sort of chess over there in
I agree.
Carolina.
And, yeah, they're lost. I mean, it's pretty crazy and it's tough for Dixie, who's in ninth place, which is okay, but he has 112 less point scoring than the guy in ninth and above him.
And he also has 150 less points scored against him than Nick does. So, like, Nick has 900 points scored against him. Dixie has 745. It's unreal.
It is. Brady just missed a wide open pass to Mike
Leonard
Evans.
Fournette touchdown. Oh no, we just got stopped.
Fuck.
Yeah, I mean, I have 130 more points scored against Dix than Dix. I have 130 more points scored than Dixie does, and 150 more against. So, that's my season. I'm gonna wake up. I'm gonna keep doing this podcast. I'm gonna keep setting my roster. I'm gonna keep making moves, and hopefully I can start getting some of that luck my way.
Yeah.
I mean, it just for kicks. If you look at, if you were to play everyone in the league, how many wins you would
Fournette
have?
touchdown.
How many, like,
I have
Liv
2
and
weeks.
Mrs. Dixie have like 45 and 43 wins. If you look at every week you play everyone, Dixie has 9
9 what?
total wins if you consider everyone in the league. Like, just to show you,
Oh
like,
yeah. If you
Dixie
it's-
and Liv have
9
like
and like
in
45.
the 40s. Yeah, he's like 9 and 45, and somehow has more wins than Nick, who's 32 and
That's
like 45.
So the real question here is Dixie getting relegated in Toker's Lounge in replacement of Colby?
I mean, it might have
that's-
to. Kobe's like a deuce.
Yeah.
I think we might have
Wait,
to start.
wasn't that a preseason
I think
condition?
it's already written in stars.
I think that was talked about beforehand.
Yeah. All right, we'll move on to the
But-
other league.
Well, I think we go to a sponsor, then we can touch with the league.
Yeah, that's a good time for our sponsor. So we'll hear back from you guys in a minute after a quick word from our sponsor.
All right, this week's sponsor is brought to you by Sweensy. Are you always tired? Sick of being unable to fall asleep on hard airplane walls or car windows? Maybe you need an excuse to miss classes or job obligations. If so, the Sweensy pillow is just for you. Packed with the finest furs from the plains of Africa, this pillow will provide your much-needed sleep under any circumstance without leaving you with the pesky neck pain from pillows of the past. Are you a hot sleeper? Cold sleeper? Somewhere in between? Don't worry. They have multiple pelt options completely tailored to you. Once you feel the plush comfort of the Sweensy, you will never feel the urge to road rage again. Pull out the gun and shoot the sheep, because the Sweensy pillow is all you need to sleep. All right, thank you to Sweensy for being our sponsor this week. I use their pillow, and trust me, I never want to wake up in the morning. I don't care what day of the week it is. I could sleep all day. I don't know if it's my debilitating sleep apnea or the pillow, but I'm gonna give it to the pillow for making me not want to crawl out of bed. So go to Sweensy.com. Use code TOKEPOD for 25% off your first finest fur African fur pillow.
And you know what? I had to take the Sweensies. The Sweensies was kind enough to donate us the podcast some pillows, and I've had them in my guest rooms, and I've had to remove them because my guests they sleep in and stay way too long. So
Yep.
it's a great product they're making over there. I can't suggest it anymore. Go to their website, take their personalized test to get your personalized pillow sent to you.
All right, welcome back. You heard it from there, Sween Z. I'll tell you, I have one of their pillows as well, and after last night's magic, I went to bed at 1 a.m. and woke up at 5:30, and felt like I got a full 8 hours of sleep. So the product definitely works. We're gonna move over now to our Toker's Lounge league, and basically just go through what we just did. Obviously, we've talked about a lot of key players, so it might be a little quicker going through this one, just because we're not going to have as much to say on some of these players, so it'll be more of like the team composition, I would imagine. But we'll start it off real good with Team Flash doing like his name says, 968 points, almost 1,000 points in the league, top scorer. Honestly, lower end of points against. I'll say, what is he? He's the second lowest scored on team. So do with that as you will, but it doesn't matter because he's been putting points up like it's his job. I mean, he just picked up Kenneth Walker, who, after the first 2 games that he's been in, looks like he was well worth the 95% of your budget. Even after Dixie missed out on that opportunity, it still doesn't look like he has a full grasp on how to use this fab. I don't know who the player was, but it looks like he went to pick up a player and he was like,
It was Gus Edwards.
Gus Edwards, a guy who just went off. Gus comes out of nowhere. I have Kenyon Drake. I'm like, all right, cool. I have Kenyon Drake. Like, he did great. J.K. Dobbins is down. Like, probably 25 seconds before the game starts, team looks like they're going to start Gus Edwards. And I'm like, oh, here we go. Gus Bus. I've had this guy like 6 years in a row, and he's never done anything for me. And what does he do? Looks like a freaking monster. Comes out of the woodworks, goes off. And Dixie, once again, lost by like $30 or $40. He's got his full budget, last place. So hasn't really come to grips with it. But
yeah, I mean, just for comparison on that note, Dixie spent $15 trying to get Gus Edwards. The winner spent $45. Sween. Jesse spent $14. So Slim spent $1 more than Jesse. $14 is all Jesse has in his Fab account.
Yeah, so 100%.
So he was spending the last bit of his 100% of his remaining budget after dropping a bag on Kenneth Walker. Worth it. And Dixie spent $1 more than him with, I don't know, like $90. I think he has $90 of
Fab 10% available. Versus 100%.
Like I think the only person who could have, if he really wanted Gus Edwards, the only person who could have outbid him was me.
Yeah. We'll see how it plays out. It looks like he already has some injury issues with Gus, but so far it looked good. But looking at Jesse's team, I mean, Kenneth Walker, Ramondre Stevenson, and Raheem Mostert, 3 really good running backs right there. He also has A.J. Brown, who's been having a pretty decent year. Nothing unbelievably crazy, but he's a top 20 receiver, so he's been going off with them. Sometimes, like we've said it, all you need is 3 or 4 really outstanding players to push your team. I mean, Joe Burrow has started to really sit into his spot again, 30 points plus the last 2 weeks. So yeah, I mean, go on.
He kind of got hit with some of the live issues with the Jamar Chase. It's like a little bit of a combination of Liv and Melissa's team, where he's in the same boat. He's got Elijah Mitchell and Jeff Wilson on his bench, so we've kind of already touched on that. But it's like maybe pick one, maybe pick one of those guys, drop the other guy like as a handcuff. But with Christian McCaffrey there, unless barring an injury, both those guys are useless. Jamar Chase, tough loss. The big thing obviously is he's got Kelsey, and it's
I didn't even
at that position. At that position, it's one A and one B, and then there's everybody else. It's a huge drop off between Kelsey and Andrew.
1X. And
I mean,
1Y.
with he didn't have another tight end. Kelsey's now on a bye this upcoming week, and he was fortunate enough that Pat Fryermuth was just kind of sitting there. Who's been, a relatively decent in the tight end spectrum, decent performer. He's had only 2 games under 10 points.
Yeah.
So for tight ends, that's pretty good.
I dropped the ball there. I should have scooped him up.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Friar
I mean, I
Tuck
even
looks
debated
good.
about doing it just for a backup for like Taysom Hill kind of thing if he starts fizzling off. Because I mean, that's just a solid guy to have for a tight end with how he's been performing. He's been one of the top targets, or one of the go-to guys on that offense with the young quarterbacks.
Yeah, I have Gerald Everett, and I think with the Mike Williams, it's stock up, but it was a bye week, and Firemouth is a great option for a bye week, and I definitely dropped the ball there. Is a good pickup by Jesse for sure.
I guess we'll
Yeah,
see
so I
how
mean,
Melvin Gordon's going to do now that it looks like Mike Boone might be hurt. But I wouldn't put too much stock into him. But it's a decent guy to have on your bench.
yeah, I mean, with his two running backs, he has with Kenneth Walker and Stevenson, he has like week 11 and week 10 for buys. So with Mostert also has week 11, so maybe week 11 will be tough. But the fact that Ramondre is just doing so good and he got him so low in the draft, and that might just keep him afloat in the running back position.
Yeah, I mean, I have AJ Brown in other leagues. He's kind of frustrating. Some days he does great, some days he doesn't. So like that's something. Deontay Johnson's just a shit offense, and he's been pretty underwhelming. He's a guy who could go off, but he just hasn't. He only has 2 games above 10 points, and one of them was 10 points, and the other was 12. So that's tough. Zay Jones, same kind of thing. He's only had 1 good game. And Mostert, you just don't really know. He looked great last week, but he's all banged up, I guess. And yeah, we'll see. Definitely a depth thing, but you got to feel pretty good when you have Travis Kelce as kind of like the backbone of your team.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I mean, and maybe I don't know what he's going to do if you listen to this, what he's going to do this week. But now that Tooney just got traded, I know he wasn't really doing much this week, but it looks like Wandale Robinson looks like he could be a decent fill-in on the Giants that are looking pretty good. He's only really played 2 games, so it's not really much of a sample size. He's got 11, 8 points. So yeah, maybe he steps in as one of his Daniel Jones's top receivers.
I think my favorite for league winner is this next guy, Tom Giancola. I think he looks poised to have a back-to-back year win. His team, if Mike Williams or Keenan Allen can come back and just do half of what they're supposed to do, his team looks pretty freaking gross. Josh Jacobs, Saquon Barkley, Dalvin Cook, DeAndre Hopkins, Amari Cooper, and then if you sit in Williams or Keenan Allen, team looks pretty scary. I'm giving him my vote for who I think at this point looks like they're probably going to win the league. I mean, I think Jesse's team's good, but that's ridiculous. Josh Jacobs, Saquon Barkley, and Dalvin Cook alone is just like holy shit.
And it is crazy. Just looking at his team this week, he has Amari Cooper, wide receiver in Cleveland, playing. His wide receiver 2 is Peoples Jones, wide receiver on Cleveland. His wide receiver 3 is DeAndre Hopkins, and then his tight end is Zach Ertz. So he has 4 people on 2 teams.
he also has Kareem Hunt on the bench. He's got Team Cleveland.
He also has Tom Brady and Tampa Bay's D and kicker.
And he has Keenan Allen and Mike Williams on the bench. This guy is like three
and
teams.
Julio Jones on the bench too.
Yeah.
His
whole
entire
team is like 3 teams.
3 teams.
It's been working
Yeah,
for him.
I mean, Dalvin Cook has been kind of underwhelming overall, but he's still someone who,
I mean, as a third running back, that can get you 25 points sometimes. It's pretty sweet.
yeah, and he seems to be a pretty good floor guy too. It just his ceiling hasn't been there, but yeah, RB3 I guess behind Josh Jacobs and Saquon. So
It's unreal.
we'll see.
Team's scary. Team is
It is scary.
Especially
kind of slept on the DeAndre Hopkins thing, and he looked really good. So
I
week
mean,
one
he's
did
just
decent.
Kyler's favorite target.
14 targets.
14 targets. Yeah.
10 catches, as we know, because DeAndre Hopkins rarely ever drops a ball.
It's just bad passes. There's 4 probably bad.
Yeah.
2 tipped and 2 in the ground or something, or 2 over his head, guaranteed.
I mean, I am curious what's going to happen. There's talks of Kareem Hunt being on the trading block, so maybe he gets shipped somewhere that it could be good, or I don't know. I don't know where he would go, but that could even be better for him. So he may have 4, decent. I mean, Kareem Hunt's already good as it is, but may even have more upside wherever he goes.
Yeah.
Kind of crazy that in the bye week for Chargers, it's like Mike Williams out anyways, and then Keenan Allen's kind of like not fully 100%, so it's like it's gonna happen anyways. At least it happens
Yeah.
during a bye week. Yeah, no, his team's definitely scary. His team is up there. Is definitely. I probably agree with you as a favorite.
And
Could
then
be could be the first repeat.
could be the first. And then, we can kind of speed things up a little bit. We can kind of group up the next two and kind of talk about both of them. Titus 5-2, third place, 4th point scored. And then we have the old dark horse shooter, 4th place, but 3rd highest point scored at 4-3.
I don't think it's a dark horse yet because this is pretty much on point for how Will's team does every single year. He's always in like 1st through 4th through 7 weeks.
Yeah, Will is, like I said earlier about the whoever it was about the some beers. Will is a set it and forget it kind of guy. Once the buys and injuries and roster management steps in, and that's where he tends to fall off. So let's see if he can keep his train moving on the
Yeah.
tracks here.
I mean, he'll probably benefit
It's
from the
funny,
Jamar Chase thing.
these guys are actually playing each other and this week, and honestly, looking at their teams, they're both kind of the same to me. Like their starting rosters are really nice. Their depth is, I think, one of the worst in the leagues.
Agreed.
Titus has Kenyon Drake, Gibson, Michael Gallup, Michael Hardman, and Romeo Dobbs as his bench, and Will has Hunter Henry, Elijah Moore, James Cook, Latavius Murray. He's got Derek Carr, and he has Eckler on a bye on his bench right now. So that would be either Dave Montgomery or Darnell Harris and Daryl Henderson. So I just, if they get hit with an injury, I don't like their replacements that they have available to them. But their starting rosters are strong. Obviously, Titus with Derrick Henry and Nick Chubb.
Yeah.
It's a scary 1-2 punch at one receiver, and Waddle. Mike Evans, Waddle, and Chris Olave all have like just go off potential. So
Chris Olave's been fantastic this year.
Yes.
yeah.
I mean, I feel like looking
he
at
hasn't had any crazy games, but he has he's
As your third receiver, though,
his floor has been really
his
really
floor's
good.
like 15.
Yeah.
It's unreal. But yeah, depth. We'll see how the depth goes for those guys.
Yeah, and then there's the three of us on the hunt. Towards the bottom, tier two players.
Yeah. Ugh. Don't look
Kirby,
at my team.
Kirby's 3-4, and me and Dennis are 2-5.
1 point away from being the lowest point scored.
I
mean,
will say I'd rather be me in this situation than Dennis. But I feel like more of my team just hasn't performed well, and I think my best games are ahead of me, so I'm optimistic with that.
Yeah, I'm slightly optimistic about my team as well. I've gotten through a decent amount of buys early on. With Jalen Hurts, Devonta Smith, Justin Jefferson, Swift, Damian Pierce. So basically, the top guys, hopefully, of my team have already gone through a buy. So hopefully, with what I've been able to pick up and kind of stash in the bench, I can kind of play around that. And make it work.
Yeah, I think I'm just gonna have to start going the old Matt route and just play Tanyan and Waller, move out Cortland Sutton for Ayuk, and just run with that because Cortland Sutton is just killing me. I don't know why I keep thinking this guy's gonna. I mean, he had those 3 games, 16, 13, 13. And I was like, okay, this is gonna keep me good. Drake London, also a guy that's really hurt me this year because he started out so strong for like a rookie and has done nothing since then. I did get Hubbard, who had a good game, but it's that classic thing of this is how I look at it. Hubbard and Foreman both come out first game as starters. They have a good game. Everybody knows what they are now. They're going to get their head in the film. They're going to look at them, and one of them's probably going to do mediocre, and one of them's going to be a stinker. Is how I think it's going to go going forward. And I don't know if I'll ever play Hubbard, so maybe I'll catch some luck with that. But just maybe McCaffrey somehow does
I-
better
I-
for San
I think
Francisco.
I think McCaffrey's stock way up. I think they obviously went and got him for a reason. Running backs are always it's always been plug and play there. The running backs have always performed well. It's why when one of them gets hurt, that he's a huge guy to pick up whoever the next man up is.
Yeah.
And Christian McCaffrey just talented. I mean, he looked really good, having had like 3 days with the playbook. Obviously Fournette, he's the guy in Tampa Bay. I think they're going to turn around. And CeeDee Lamb, I think his best games are ahead of him.
Yeah.
And I really like. I think Brandon Cooks is an unbelievable wide receiver 3. Houston's going to be playing a lot of games from behind. They're going to have to be throwing the ball. So
I know.
I don't know. Like it's definitely been a frustrating year for your team. I like your team. I like Brandon's team too. Just looking at that. Kyler Murray seems to be, he gets his favorite weapon back. Joe Mixon, I think their offense has looked better, and I think with that, it's going to come more opportunities for Joe Mixon. I think he's really underperformed, and I think his best games are for him. Devontae Adams a freak, and Christian Kirk, we've talked about this, but we're all high on him. And George Kittle, same thing. He looks like he's really coming back around into form. Last 2 games, 12 points and 18 points. So.
Yeah, I mean, just something, just what ironic. I don't know why I just thought of this. Last week was like, for whatever reason, it was like National Tight End Day or National Tight End Week, whatever, some bullshit thing they call it. And both Kittle and Kelsey had the same amount of receptions and yards. Same stats.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Sween in this league is just will seem to stay healthy. He's had some bad luck, and he's held on some people that have been hurt. So if those guys that he has perform and stay healthy, he has a good chance too.
Should we talk about the last guy on the board? Is it worth it?
I mean, I feel like his teams are similar. He's made the decisions he's made in the leagues. Like we talked about him with his fab, but just it's hard just not to look at his team and laugh because I know they're having a good year, but like just seeing anybody start the Jets defense is like just funny.
Yeah, definitely is something I would never expect. I mean,
But
they're
he
only 28%
hates
started.
I think Dixie's thing is like he just plays whatever defense is facing
Playing the Pats.
now.
Just
Just
hedges.
to vote for his under bet.
I mean, on a positive note for Slim, he is performing better in Toker's Lounge than he is scoring wise than some beers. I mean, he's drastically lower in some beers than he is in Toker's
100
Lounge.
points less.
With
one more win.
Yeah, he's 100 points less with one more win.
Yeah, double his
But
wins.
I will say, and old Stevie here, you have to be careful because your average points is right, basically tied with Slimstone.
Oh,
there,
I know,
so.
dude.
Hey, I'm
This is
0-2
worse
against,
than losing.
I'm
I would rather
0-2.
lose to anyone else right now.
I'm 0-2 against Slim this year, so I don't
You
know
don't
what the
think
fuck
I
I'm
know
talking about.
exactly where I lie right now? I'm not winning anything in this league. The only thing I'm playing for right now is not being below Slim. I'll never live this down at this point. Not because of who he is, but just because of he's done nothing to help himself this season. Nothing.
Maybe he has a second half resurgence if some of his high drafted running backs do something. But the way
I think on paper my team looks way better than his. So the fact that it's even close right now is just like, oh.
His high drafted running backs. One of his high drafted running backs is literally
not even on his team
in the free agency.
Won't touch the ball for the rest of the year.
Yeah, well, it's just Najee's doing nothing. Zeke is doing nothing as well, and
Probably
now
hurt.
hurt. So it's not looking good for any of his 1, 2, 3 running backs.
Bateman has 0 points as of now, and here I am.
That's
about to be below Slim.
But once again, like it's halfway through the season. fifth place is 4-3, last place is 1-6.
It's
I mean,
close.
really, it is. It's a couple games. You just need a couple things fall your way. When maybe the other team has injuries and buys, and no one's really. You're never really out until about probably week like 12. You probably know if you're in or out. No, maybe before that.
Yeah.
I
So,
forget. I forget when playoffs start.
it's competitive in both leagues right now. I don't think anybody is truly out of it. If you don't look at who they have on their team, if you just look at record-wise, nobody's out of it right now. How many people make it to the playoffs in this league? Is it 6 still?
I thought.
Yeah.
I thought. Yeah. I thought we're just doing. I thought the playoffs were the same in both leagues, but I guess we're both doing 6. But in some beers, it's normal playoffs, 2 get
Yeah,
a
yeah.
bye,
But it's
and
still both
Toker's
six.
Lounge.
Yeah. Just keep it a
So-
little simpler, and you can just set it and watch like the
forget it.
playoff bracket.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
so,
I like
but
it.
still, I mean, two games separate last and sixth, so anything can happen. There's a lot of season left. I think we're either at the halfway point or maybe a game past the halfway point. I don't know exactly right now because of how the playoffs work. A couple of games before the end of the regular season, but
Yeah,
you should
and
be
buys
making moves.
buys are kind of the equalizer a little bit. You kind of separate the teams that are kind of getting pulled by one guy, and if you hit the right string of games with the facing the right opponents with their right bye weeks, you can get some easy wins in there. And then obviously, as we started to see it, last 2 weeks, the injuries start to pile up, and it really exposes weaknesses and exposes teams. So
Yeah,
like I
week
said,
for week injuries.
anything can happen. So, and obviously, like the trades and stuff can really change somebody. Like,
Yeah, I mean,
me and
there's.
Kirby have talked a million times about, like, oh, I hope the Panthers are just emptying house, and if we can get DJ Moore, like you mentioned, like with the Packers, like how much that would change.
Oh my God.
Someone like
Yeah,
that.
100%. And even there's talks of Judy on the block as well. That could change depending on where he goes. Yeah, and so there's the trade week ends November 1st, so maybe there'll be a little bit more buzz. Who knows?
Trade Jameis Winston to the Broncos.
Dude, I'll take anything other than what we've seen with Russ.
They're going for Andy Dalton now. I mean, Jameis wasn't doing that bad. Switch him out for Russ. Russ sucks. He's done.
I mean, that is my entire season is contingent on Matt Ryan being benched and then a guy I don't even know, Sam something, throwing to Michael Pittman Jr., Russell or the backup throwing to Judy, and a fucking semi-pro league quarterback throwing to DJ Moore.
Oh my
Dude,
gosh.
shout out Billy Football from Part of My Take, dude. He said Sam Ellinger, best quarterback in the draft. This is coming from a draft where Trevor Lawrence was the number 1 overall pick. So,
We'll
big
see. I
things-
mean,
big things happen over there.
that's
big-
that's my season is based on those 3 fucking guys.
Yeah, well, stay tuned for the weeks to come because it'll be interesting in these 2 leagues. I got to say that. A lot of cool things happening. We were going to wrap it up with some injuries, but we kind of already talked about all the injuries. Brees Hall, Jamar Chase, Mike Williams, Dobbins, Mike Thomas. I think we spoke about everyone besides Cordero Patterson. And that's just more like, when is he going to return? I hope never, because I have Tyler Algier, and he might be a guy that is going to hopefully get me some points one day. But yeah, do you guys have anything else to tie it up?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about trades, CMC to San Francisco, James Robinson to the Jets. Kadarius Tooney got traded to the Chiefs from the Giants, so I don't know. He hasn't really done that much this year. I don't know if that's going to help or hurt. Like, say, someone like Juju.
Oh, I hope it doesn't hurt him. Oh, God.
Yeah, so that's just something to keep an eye out and how their offense. We all know Chiefs love to spread the ball around. I'm sure the only one that's safe is Kelsey from any sort of up or down swing.
Yeah. Nick, any last
so
words?
I mean, no, I want to say, if you make it to this point, the end of this podcast, if you DM me on Discord, with the number 21, just DM me the number 21, I'll Venmo you $5. So we'll just see who makes it.
It's actually funny that you said that because I've been thinking of doing something like that this entire year. It's so funny that you just randomly brought that up, not talked about it all, because I've literally been thinking that we should just add in, like, randomly a special buzzword that you can win some money on.
Are the podcast hosts excluded from that offer?
Yes, you are.
Yeah. And don't tell
All
your
right.
significant others.
Dude, I haven't. She sat multiple players. I haven't told her one thing.
Let's be serious. Liv, Anna, and Amy are not listening to the podcasts.
Hi, Colby.
Hi, Colby.
Congratulations on your $5, Colby.
Maybe we'll get a Sween listen in this one too.
All
I
right.
think Sween just kind of skips around.
Yeah. Stay tuned
Yeah.
for the pie video. I don't know if it'll be in the podcast, but we'll get it done tomorrow. I'll get it done.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll
Yeah,
see.
We'll see. We'll
It
see.
seems like you talked a big game and now no pie.
Who threw the pie? It's a freaking Three Stooges episode. There's going to be a pie. All right. Signing off for Nick, Kirby, and Dennis. This is Toke Pods. We'll catch you guys next week. Take care.
Good
Bye,
luck in the
guys.
second half.